Bill Storm.
Dean, how are you, sir?
I am good. How are you?
Fantastic.
Is this the Bill Storm?
I'm not sure.
The famous
if that's a good
the
thing.
office slaying 7 dragons? That Bill Storm?
That is me, and I'm going to start out with this. I have got to give it to your team. They have been absolutely fantastic in this entire process.
That's great.
They really are. Betsy was great. Christy, the interview with Christy was a lot of fun. I'm working with Kimberly right now, and whoever designed the cover, spot on. I mean, it was absolutely perfect.
I saw your cover. It looks great. So that's all very exciting.
It is. I was pleased when I saw the cover. I said, okay, this is better than what I thought it was going to be. This is exceptional.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm excited. We've got this good topic for a podcast. So I'm excited that whatever we get. Usually, we're in the situation where people come to the conclusion that doing a book would be a good thing. And now, this is good to start that you've got the book. So now we could talk about taking it out into the world here. So
that was actually a specific question that I was curious about your approach, because there's a couple of different approaches I had in my head. So that's where I wanted to dig in and really, get your thoughts on that.
Okay. Well, I'm all buckled in. I'm in my comfy podcasting seat, and I'd love to hear the backstory and how it got to this point, maybe where you are, what you do, and then we can jump off from there.
Okay. I'll try to keep the backstory brief but succinct. So my principal residence right now is in Delray Beach, Florida, so I'm not that far from you.
Hey, just up the road.
Yeah, not bad. I'm actually up at our summer home in Syracuse, New York. That's where I'm from originally.
Okay.
But I started my own business back in 1998. So I've been at this for a while. And the whole reason I did that is I literally quit my job 1 month before my first child was born, because I knew that, if I wanted to be able to provide the kind of life that I really wanted to be able to, have my family enjoy, I had to do something about it, right? So that's the day, February 1998. That was the month that I became the CEO of my own life. And
hey, I love it.
Got my start with real estate investing. My father-in-law, I didn't know anything about it. I was, very young at the time. I was only, 28 years old, but he owned, I think he owned 7 or 8 properties. So that gave me a little bit of a head start. And I was an avid learner. So I jumped right in and, bought every book and course I could think of on the topic. And I had a knack for creative real estate finance. I did really, really well with that. The market in Syracuse wasn't the best market to be in. Probably if I had done the same exact thing down in South Florida, I'd be even light years ahead of where I am today. But, it was all good. Built a lot of great relationships and just had a lot of fun with it. How I got to coaching, I have been a lifelong martial artist. I started when I was 9 years old. I'm just about to turn 51 years old. And it just so happened that a lot of people in that industry would come to me and they would ask me for advice. And that grew into a full-fledged coaching program specifically for that niche. And that was back in 2008. The challenge that I had with that is that most of the people that are in that business really just created a job for themselves. They're not really entrepreneurs, and it was very limited as far as what I could do, with my own creativity, and I get bored easily. So I wanted something to, I wanted to kind of level up, if you will, and get outside of that industry. So I pretty much threw myself, right into the online world and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to completely change gears here, go into a completely cold audience, recreate myself, the whole 9 yards, and figure out how to do this. And I've had a lot of fun doing it, but it is very different when you're in a space where, no one really knows you yet, right? And no one really knows you. And I've tried a lot of different things that people say you should do, and none of the things resonate with me as well as telling stories. That's just kind of what I've always done, and I enjoy that whole process. My favorite speaker in the whole world ever is the late great Zig Ziglar. So the thought of writing a book just really appealed to me. Never did anything with it. So I've gotten beaten up for the past few years, not accelerating as fast as I wanted to. And when I really looked at what was going on, I think part of the reason is your message is boring, right? There's nothing exciting about what you're doing with it, you need to find a way to be able to tell your story and share with people what you do and how you did it. And, people that have ears to hear and are looking to be able to create the kind of freedom that I was able to create for my family are going to hear it, and they're going to be attracted to that. So, so that's the fast version of where I started and where I am now.
And so now, talk about your book, then how you got to that and the title and what that's all about.
Okay, so this is kind of fun. I actually got into it as I got into a discussion. Well, I'll start with this. And I don't think anything happens by coincidence, but I hired an ad agency, and I was really attracted to the lady that runs this ad agency. I'd always focused on trying to do a lot of the things myself. That's one of the things that I shouldn't have been doing myself, but I was anyway because I'm a hardhead. And the reason I was so attracted to this particular lady is her site that she had, her website, or I don't think it was a funnel she built. I think it was just the site, but it had this whole fairy tale type look to it. Even the storyline had this fairy tale type of vibe to it, and it really attracted me. I said, "Wow, she's different, right? Yeah. She gets it. She understands. She really gets it." So I had a conversation with her, and also found out that she was, aside from being a great storyteller, she also happened to be a software engineer by her formal education was in software engineering. So she had that side of the brain also, which is a weird
sequential. Yeah.
So, I quizzed her a little bit, and she really understood the numbers and what I was looking for. So I decided to go with her. So then I decided to contact your company, the 90-Minute Books, and the conversation I had with Christy was really good. We started brainstorming title ideas, and we started talking about the challenges that I had faced throughout all these years. And we got into this great story, just sharing stories. And she was talking about, the mountains that you had to overcome and the obstacles and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, this thing popped into my brain about the dragons representing, 7 dragons with these 7 different challenges. And we started talking about that. And I said, Christy, this is really weird. But I said, you're going to laugh at this. But I said, I think I've been fighting dragons my whole life. Back when I was a junior in high school, we had the option in my junior year of high school, we had to fulfill a language requirement. And the language requirement, or the language that I had been studying, was Spanish. So we could either sit down in a classroom setting and, do the boring way of learning, or one of the other teachers who was super creative had something that was called the Spanish musical. And literally you had to create the scripts in Spanish. You had to learn, you had to put together songs in Spanish and build the sets and the costumes and the whole 9 yards. I said, okay, I'm doing that, right? I don't have to go to this class. I'm going to go do this. So the storyline that we were doing that year was Sleeping Beauty. Well, I didn't really want a big role in this thing until I saw who the princess was that was trying out for that role. And I said, okay, I'll do it.
Okay, that's funny.
Yeah, that's a true story. I literally did not want to do it. And I was sitting we were in the auditorium, and I was sitting in the chairs just, talking with some of my friends. And all of a sudden I heard this voice up on stage singing, and I'd never heard this voice. And I looked up, and you would swear it was Aurora the I'd never met her before. Our high school had 5,000 people in it.
Right.
So anyway, I got that role as, Prince Charming. And one of the things that we did in the play was we had my buddy Jim was the dragon that was guarding the castle where she was, fast asleep.
Right.
So we did this whole fight scene between he and I, and he had this dragon costume on. It's just there. I actually have a video clip of this thing in a picture. So here I am, and I'm doing this martial arts action, and I'm fighting this dragon. So it was just kind of a funny story, how all that kind of came together. And so I called it, I decided on Slaying the 7 Dragons, the Entrepreneurial Hero's Guide to Conquering the Online World of Business.
I like it. That's good. So are you completely done now? Have you read books ready to go?
Well, Kimberly sent me over the draft, right?
Okay.
And I looked at it and I started to read it, and I said, okay, this isn't really readable as a book yet. I'm going to obsess over this because I'm going to put my name on this, and I want to make sure that it reads well. So I've spent literally the past week. She sent me over 93 pages. So I went through it, you know, looked at some of the word choices that I used, and just, I mean, there's all kinds of edits that I did to it. Right now, my wife is giving it a third read before I send it back. So we're really close. I'm super
Oh,
excited
good.
about putting this out into the world for sure.
Perfect. So all of that to be, what's the end result of this? Like, what's the purpose that we're hoping the book is going to serve for you?
Okay, so I definitely am using it to get somebody to raise their hand to say,
Okay.
wow, that's interesting. Yes, I'd like to have a conversation with you. So the shortest distance between the two points is a straight line. I want to go from that to let's have a conversation. And from there, jump on the line for a friendly chat, get to know somebody a little bit. And my avatar is literally somebody who is just like me all those years ago that wants freedom, right? They want the freedom to be able to create the lifestyle that they want for their family. And they may already own a brick and mortar business and they're looking to transition online to free up their time, or they may be in a career that's kind of stale or not taking them where they want to go. And literally just sharing with them some of the basic fundamental things that you need to do to be in business for 23 years like I have.
And so when you look at it, one of the questions I always ask people, is what would be the best, what's the dream come true result that you could create for someone? If we asked the clarifying question of just kind of going through it in your mind. If you were only going to get paid if they get the result, what would be the thing that you could help someone do? What are you that confident in?
Okay. So that's a great question and an easy one for me to answer. I'll use an example. One of my clients that's just an absolute all-star, her name is Dr. Beth. And Dr. Beth was a pharmacist and she was doing really well. She was, by most people's standards, right? She was, earning about $100K a year, but she was trapped. She had a terrible schedule. They were asking her to sell things that she wasn't really comfortable with, that she didn't feel was the best thing for her patients. And she had a cap on her income. So she said, Bill, what can I do? I really want to get away from this and I want to be able to start a business around something that I'm really passionate about. So what I said to her was, if you follow these steps, if you work with me for the next 8 weeks, not the next 8 months, the next 8 weeks, what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to create a sales process or a sales funnel that will allow you to be in business, open the doors for business, and start generating income in 8 weeks. And I told her, I said, I know that sounds like a very bold promise, but the thing is that it's completely doable because I've got the step-by-step system in order to make you do this. All I have to do is really capture what you're passionate about and figure out how we're going to package it and get your message out in front of people. And once we take that baby step and you start to generate some income, it's going to start to give you the confidence that you need, where then I'll challenge you to, over the course of the next year, be able to get to the point where you're really going to have a shot at saying goodbye to your career, like literally leaving your job and give yourself the freedom that you want. Happy to say, within 12 months, she did hit a 10K month, and then it accelerated from there. Within 20 months, she hit a 20K month. She was averaging more like 13 to 15. But,
nice.
So, yeah. So that's the big promise that I could give somebody is if you are willing to roll up your sleeves and put in the work and you follow the steps and you truly have something that you want to share with the world, this is a possible thing to do.
That's really good. And how many people have you helped like that? How do you have a big business doing this, or you're kind of moving in that direction now and you want to ramp that up, or what's the state of the union there?
Yeah, and this is the tricky part. I had such a well-established coaching business in the martial arts. I still have that business going because that's where I had my foundation. So I still have a lot of those clients. Interestingly enough, what's happened is as I have evolved, I'm starting to pick some of those people that do have an entrepreneurial spirit and enough drive and pulling some of those people with me, and they're starting other things or expanding what they're already doing in a different way. The newer market of people, this is the part that I'm expanding and growing. And certainly I want to grow at. One of the big hurdles I had to get over, one of the big dragons, was increasing my price point as compared to what I was charging in the martial arts industry, and feeling confident that I could get it. The thing is now is I have done enough business to where I feel very comfortable now in that space. But the big, I have no lack of confidence in my ability to build rapport, nurture a relationship, or close. Where I do need, or where my focus of what I wanted to ask you today was more on the front end piece, with the book to get more appointments booked than I'm currently getting.
Okay. So it's all math and it's all, time. But what would you say is the monetary result that you're able to create for people? Like, what's the scope? Is she your Beth? Is she like the shining star of this? Are you helping people get, kind of side businesses going that are supplementing their income? Or have you got other people like Beth that are creating six-figure businesses?
Yeah, I'm not really looking for the side hustle type person.
Right.
It's not my, I want to work with, kind of like it says, an entrepreneurial hero. I don't want, sort of I want a stud, not a dud. I want somebody who's very much like me, who goes after it. So the first 12 months, $100K type challenge is my mindset going into it. Within a 12-month period, that's where I'd really like them to be able to hit, not 100K within 12 months necessarily, but I'd like to be able to get them to a monthly revenue where they're hitting 10K consistently.
Right. Got it. Okay. So it's getting a sense of the scope here of how this is going to play out, and what people would do typically to get a six-figure income, and what you're sort of in the realm of when people are thinking about spending money to do that. If they're going to buy a business or buy a franchise or do something, right? A system that's going to get them there, and you positioning what you do along those lines is potentially a way. But how do people engage with you? Do you charge a monthly consulting fee? Do you do a course, or you've got your 8-week course? But walk me through your menu of services.
Okay, so that has evolved dramatically from when I first started a coaching business, and especially now. I tried a lot of different approaches, none of which I really enjoyed. And I really go back to, what would I want? What kind of experience would I want? And I know a lot of people avoid the one-on-one type of scenario. And I would agree with that if they're doing it, if it's set up like a time for money type, I could agree with that. But I also believe that when you're charging a premium price, that if you're going to be a coach, somebody needs to know that you care enough to know who they are, know them personally, know what their strengths are, know what their weaknesses are, and help them at that level to be able to stay in momentum and hit the outcome that they want. To me, there's nothing worse than getting involved in a group type of a program and then feeling like no one really cares, right? You're just there and nobody wants to talk to you, or nobody wants to address the situation. So I don't like that. I don't like that model at all. So generally what I'll do now is the first 8 weeks, I want to work with that person to build something that they can literally feel, that they can touch it, right? They can touch it. So that's why I love the idea of a book. You physically can see it, touch it, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with a course or a sales funnel. So what I like to do is I like to work with a person and say, teach me, show me what it is that you do, and let's put this into something that we can build together, and you can see what the end result is. So for example, with a course funnel or a membership area type funnel, I can build this thing out with them so that in the end, or as it's coming along, they can start to see what this is going to look like and what their, flagship product is that they're going to present to their customer.
Uh-huh.
Then from there,
I like that.
once we get that, I want them to build a Ferrari, right? I want them to build this amazing thing, and they're excited about it. Then from there, it goes on to a monthly consulting fee.
And just working with you like in continuation, as long as they want to continue, kind of thing. As long as you're working towards moving forward.
Yes, correct. I've always said this happens a lot in a lot of different industries. I think contracts are so unnecessary. Number one, they won't hold up. Number two, if you have to rely on a contractual agreement, you've pretty much lost the war. I mean, I'd rather over deliver and have them feel that real connection with me. Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. I don't have any of those consulting contracts or anything. It's all just, if you can't work that way, we shouldn't be working together anyway. But, okay. So now, how many people do you have that you work with on that basis now? Like, is it up and running and you're working with people outside of the martial arts?
All right. So right now I have a total of, it just so happens the numbers work out like this. I have 68 clients total, 20 of which are outside of the martial arts industry.
Okay, great. All right. So if we look at it now, how many, I'll call them unconverted prospects do you have? How big of a prospect list of this audience are you in contact with right now?
Let's see. My entire email list is about 5,300 people. My newer list, like my new prospects from this new niche, is probably sitting at around, let me see how many on that other list, 560. Probably around 800 or so.
Okay. And so that's where we're going to need to look at growing that list, right? This is where you want to see the forward growth in this area, right?
Correct.
So when we look at it, one of the things that I point out to people is if you look at it, you've got these 800 people right now. That's everybody, including the clients and stuff that you are working with outside of the martial arts. The new niche, we'll call them, right? The Dragon Slayers. So your Dragon Slayer list is 800 people, of which 20 have paid you money in some way to work with you for helping them slay the dragons, right? Even though you weren't calling it that yet, that's what they've been working on. So to put it in context, that's been the last couple of years, you said?
No, that list has just started growing since about November.
Oh, okay. So only 6 months for that list.
Yeah, it's new.
Okay. And you've already got 20 of them who are doing business with you.
Correct.
Okay, that's great. So here's how I look at the metrics of this, right? When you say, how much revenue total have you generated from these 20 people so far?
You say price points have jumped and changed a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm squirreled around that. So let me figure out the first 8 weeks. Let me just come up with an average, because I've jumped from price points of 20. I've jumped anywhere from $29.97 to $89.97 and got both.
Okay.
So let me just say let's just average it out and say something around like 4 times 20. That'd be what, 80,000?
Okay. Yeah.
Is that right? That would be like 80,000 up front.
Okay.
And then monthly price point ongoing from there, I've done anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000.
Okay. And how many people are on that part of it? How much have you generated from that, just to get a total for it's because what I want to point out here is that it's all coming from this 800 people, right? And the thing that when we start looking at the revenue model for you here, the 80,000, even if we just called it 80,000, and would you say that the coaching stuff has amounted to more or less than that in additional revenue?
Well, if we look at 6 months, let's just chop it in half and call it 3 months and take the lowest one. That'd be another 45,000. So let's just call it maybe a total of like 130.
Okay, so 130,000. And when we look at that now, divided by that 800 people over 6 months, you've generated 100 and what would we call that? $115 per subscriber. Is that right? Let's do the math here.
I'd have to pull up my calculator. I don't want to lose
Yeah,
it.
I got mine out here too. Yeah, okay. So we've got 130,000 divided by 800 is 162.50 per subscriber is what it amounts to, right? Now, when you look at that, so nobody on that list is longer than 6 months old.
Correct.
On it. Yeah. So now you've got the gestation period here. If we were to take the people who came on board in April of this year, when would they have been opted in? Are they all like coming on and then going through your funnel and then buying right away? Or did you have some people who joined you in April that opted in November and then finally got around to joining you?
Yeah, I would say I have some of both. What happens is,
Okay.
This is kind of a fun expression I picked up from a buddy of mine. I'm not sure where he got it, but he said, I always want to be a welcome guest and not an annoying pest.
Right. That's Dan Kennedy used to say that.
Oh, is it? Is it? All right. So what I do, and this is what I've always done that I feel really comfortable with, is I just every week I get on my soapbox and I teach something.
Yeah.
And so I just have a live Zoom call that I also stream and do a Facebook group, and it's completely free. And I just basically send an email out every single week to the email list and say, hey, I'm going to be talking to you or talking about this particular subject this week. Would you like to join us? Click here and hop on.
Yeah, I love it. And how many people do you typically have join you? Do you do it live and you have them?
I do it live.
And they come on
live
Zoom?
Live webinar attendance like normal is horrible for me anyway. It's never been really good.
Right.
But I do track replay because I do, regardless of whether they opt in or not, I send everybody the replay anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's really, I'm not into a kiss on the first date. I definitely like the old school courting process, and that's the way I do it.
Yeah, this is awesome. So you've got, and every week you're doing a new version of that?
Correct.
Okay, so you've got a really nice, I call that your flagship communication, right? What we would look at as your profit activator 3, educate and motivate people. And so right now, the metric that we use around that, and you're just getting going right now, is calculating what we call your revenue per unconverted prospect. So that means that right now, whatever you've been doing to get people onto that list, into that pool of 800 people, you're stocking your pond here with 800 potential dragon slayers, and you are every week sending out valuable information that's going to help them, that's going to educate them, and is also going to motivate them. And of what you've been doing so far has generated an annual revenue per unconverted prospect of $162 so far, right? So if we say that continues on, that you are, that you look for every time you get somebody on that in your pond, it's worth $162 to you in your system. This is the way I try and get people to determine how much they can afford to invest in stocking their pond, So if we say, what are you doing to get those 800 people right now? What has been your most predictable and repeatable way to get people into your world.
Okay, so this is actually going to lead into my question that I had for you, my big question.
Yeah.
But it's definitely costing me too much right now. I'm working with an ad agency, and what I don't have a book or something like that, but what I have been offering is basically a free on-demand webinar replay of the system that I use, and people are opting in. So basically what they're doing is they're tuning into one of the live sessions that I did, and they're listening to it. And, I went through the process that leads them to want to book a call. So that's generally how I'm giving away that free content that way.
How much does it you to get an opt-in?
Way too much. It started out at $62, and now it's come down through some testing and different things that worked and didn't work. We're getting down to between like $15 to $25 per opt-in, which I still think is too crazy.
Yeah, that's a little high. So what I would love to see is to get this down to $5 or below for you. And that's what a book can do for you, for sure, is because right now the thing about, and even if without changing anything about your funnel's working right now, because you're getting people to go all the way through, and these are people that don't know you, right? And you've generated $130,000 from using this people. Is that fair to say that these people have come from the paid adding that you're doing?
Actually, no.
Okay.
Where my best clients have come from so far is a lot of work, but it's basically come from my organic reach into groups, contributing and adding value and starting conversations. So, it's right now, it's my skill in that area that's allowing me to do that. So I'm really not happy with the way the paid traffic is going, and hence the reason why I wanted to make this shift into the book route, because I'm not getting the paid result that I really want.
Okay. I got it.
I'm working hard, Dean.
But this is really, and there's see what we're doing right now, we're just kind of shining a light and overlaying a structure on what's happening here, right? So what I described to you, you've brought 800 people into your world. How many of the 800, like if we were just stripping away the paid portion of it, how many people have you added through your paid efforts?
Well, anybody in that list would be paid. Those would all be paid.
Oh, so no, I mean, you paid to have, I guess I'm a little bit confused. So are you saying that the 800 people that are on that list right now, that was why I asked you, is that they come from the paid search, and you suggested a lot of them had come from your organic.
No. Yeah, sorry, my apologies. No, anybody in the 800 list is from paid. Anybody from organic, I went right to conversation, right to call.
I got you. Okay. So now, so the thing that would change then is the clients. How many of the people on the paid side have converted to paying you for your program or coaching?
I'm not looking at my actual list of that right now. So I'll just rough it and say, I'll say probably 40%.
Okay, so almost half of it. So in any event, then you're looking at so it brings it down to that you're almost at, we'll call it break even then, right? If you're looking at the amount of money that you spent and the amount of money that they've generated. I got it.
Yes, I would agree with that. Yes.
Okay, fair enough. So, and they're brand new metrics, right? Like you're 6 months old with this. And so what I want to give people a sense of is that there's a separation, there's a length of time, a gestation period between when you first start communicating with somebody, when they first opt in, when they become, you know, a visible prospect. Because right now, what you have are invisible prospects. You can't get a list of people pharmacists who are unhappy with their role and are yearning for making a change. That's not a visible prospect. Those people are, they're suffering silently, basically, or they're yearning silently, or you would think that people on the surface would look at Beth and say, she's got it made. She's got a six-figure job. She's got a professional, all this stuff, but it wasn't fulfilling for her, right? And so there was more for her, and she was seeking to do more. So you were able to help her out like that. Now, when you offer your webinar, or you offer whatever your opt-in is, with the book will be the best example. You now turn an invisible prospect into a visible prospect, because now you know who they are and you know what they opted in for. What's the title of the webinar that they're opting in for?
It's really basic. It's the online business blueprint for beginners.
Okay. So that means that what you know about the person who opts in for that is that they're interested in starting an online business. They need a blueprint, and they're a beginner, because they're saying, "Oh, that's me." So that's why you get what you asked for, right? Like if you were running an ad that said how to turn your six-figure agency business into a seven-figure agency business, that would be, you'd get a different person, right? So
yes.
The job in Profit Activator 2 is to pick the title and the audience so that you're getting what you want, right? That that people who download it. I work with a podiatrist, and we did a book called The Plantar Fasciitis Solution. So that anybody that downloads the book, The Plantar Fasciitis Solution, has plantar fasciitis and they'd like to get it solved, right? So this is where we kind of telegraph everything, and it's such a good preliminary thing. Now, what I do on that side, we're looking to, what I call it is, separate the compelling from the convincing. And so somebody who we're all about, when we're trying to generate a lead, we're all about compelling what they're looking for, right? We talk about more cheese, less whiskers here as our concept, right? That what's the cheese that they really want? What would be the promise that, if you could say it on the book, is going to be the thing that they really want? So when you say how to start an online business, that you're now getting the right people in the pond, and those, I try and get people to separate the thinking about that to think about it as a capital investment and not as an expense, meaning expense-based math for this looks like, I run the ad, I spend this much for them to opt in, they go through my gauntlet series or my funnel, and this many people come on a strategy call, and this many people, book or take my course, or, sign up. And that means that we generate this much return on ad spend, right? And they typically measure that in a 30-day window. Does that sound familiar?
It does.
Yeah. And so it's a kind of expense-based approach to it. Now, what I'm talking about is looking at the reality that not everybody is going to make a decision right away to do something. The minority, are going to make the decision to do something right away, right? But the larger group is going to be over some period of time. They're going to want to, you've heard the words, people have to know you, like you, and trust you, right? And we try and get to that point quickly, but we talk about it as if it's one thing, one destination, right? But we need to celebrate each of the individual components of that. Somebody going from not knowing you to knowing you is an exponential leap and much closer to them being able to like you and then trust you enough to take you up on an invitation that you make to them, right? So the thing that I always like to do on the front end of this is to cast the net so that you're attracting as many of your ideal prospects as you can. And a book is much easier to consume than a webinar, right?
Can I
when
ask
people
you
are
a
making
question?
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask you a question around that because you said that I want to attract as many of, the people that are interested.
Yeah.
And what I've kind of found, at least going into a new niche, is the quality or the quantity doesn't necessarily, or it doesn't appear to be the same as the quality. So sometimes, somebody will opt in and then, with just an email address, and then they're just kind of a ghost. So I wondered what your take on was. Don't worry about that. Just go for the quantity of people that raise their hand for the book, or do you like the approach of like a self-liquidating offer where they actually get the book for free, but they have the ability to get the the order bump with the audio version, and then the OTO with a course of that allows them to take a deep dive. Which do you prefer?
Right. So I look at it that you're running. We're talking about Facebook ads now, right? You're running Facebook ads. So you're fishing you're fishing in the pond, right? So that's a different thing. What I'm saying is that if we it's about the concentric circles, right? So let's say that you've got all of the people in the audience that you've chosen to show your ads to. And then let's skip all the way inside that circle to the bullseye. You've had 20 people who have gone all the way to give you money of something, right? Or 40% of that. So let's say you've had 8 people out of those 800 have given you money, right? Yeah. Now, if we go backwards from the bullseye, out of those 8 people, here's what we know so far is you've identified, we'll take one layer out, you've identified 40% of 800, whatever that is. You've identified 350 people, let's say, on that list who, from the ad, said, I'm interested in starting an online business. I need a blueprint. I'm a beginner, and I'm willing to watch a webinar right now, right? Did you have it as a dated webinar or that it's instant and they can watch it now?
Yeah, I did. I just made it instant. I didn't like all the shenanigans that goes around the rest of it. So I made it instant. My numbers were worse when it was a full-length webinar. When I got to the point and got right into it, and I dropped it down from 63 minutes down to 16 minutes, my numbers went up.
Yeah, numbers of what? Of opt-ins or conversions?
Oh, sorry. Views, number one. A really long webinar. The length of time somebody was hanging in there to watch the whole thing was not as good as the percentage that watched something shorter and to the point.
Right. I got it. Yep. That makes sense. And so where you're looking at it is that somebody evaluating something right now is looking at, okay, I don't have time to watch a webinar right now, right? And we all know that webinars you have to watch in real time. That's why they're so effective, right? Is because it's synchronous consumption. I mean, when you're doing it, somebody has to sit there and watch the whole thing, you're controlling the pace of it and the delivery of it. Now, a book, somebody can get that and know that they're in complete control of when and how, what pace they gather the information, right? What I would say is that, and our experience has shown, that there will be more people, a bigger concentric circle around that of people who would like the information and would love it to be a book that they could download right now and that they'll have, even if they know they're not going to be able to read it right now, they can put this in their information gathering stage.
Okay.
Yeah. Google Insight just did a great article about this lead conversion model that they're calling the messy middle, which is kind of an interesting thing, right? From the time people opt in to the time that they buy or trigger something, they found that people are going in two loops. They're going in what they call an exploration loop, and that then refines into a evaluation loop where they're evaluating their options, which then goes into a decision. And so it's interesting if you get people in this, they're exploring opportunities. Like, I wonder if this would be for me, like Beth, if you think about her before she decided to go that way, she probably had an inkling that she wasn't totally fulfilled. Maybe there's something else. I wonder if an online business would be the right thing. And so something led her to that. She started exploring that idea. And that's where, if somebody was in that phase and they see a book that they can download, that's going to be a win. That's going to be a win because now you're building this list of people who are attracted to the idea of starting an online business. You're doing it with more of them than just the opt-ins for the webinar. And you've got the longer amount of time to nurture that relationship. Because I always look at it, the math, the way I look at and evaluate this as an investor, right? I say we get out of the expense-based approach to it and look at it as the capital investment mindset of this. But the best thing that you could do is if you had a $5,000 capital investment in 1,000 new prospects, that would be, what would be the value of that over the next 50 or 100 weeks? Because that asset is going to continually yield. Some of the people, they're not ready right now, but they may be ready in 6 months. They may be ready in a year. They may be ready, at some point in the future, but you're just there patiently nurturing, educating, and motivating them. And one day you're going to make an offer to them and they're going to say, yes. I'll give you the perfect example, Bill, that every month you've just gone through our 90-minute book process, right? And every month we send at the beginning of the month a message to all of the people who've downloaded the 90-minute book ever. And we send a simple message and say to them, hi, Bill, would you like to get started on your book this month? And that goes out every month to people. And every single month, that jump starts a handful of people to say, yes, this is the month. Now, some of those people have been on that in our world for 2 years or more. And it finally becomes time,
Yeah, the operative word then is patience.
Yes. Like an investor, Like you look at the ROI though on that investment is huge, right? When you look at the ROI on an investment in 1,000 new people who are your ideal prospect, it's going to be a big yield, you know?
Yeah, if I did the math on that, if I had 1,000, that means that I would, if I use the same numbers, that means I would sign up 10.
Yeah.
If I had 8 out of 800, that would be 10 out of 1,000. If the same number is held true times whatever my given rate is, that would be huge as compared to what I spent to get it.
Right. That's the point.
Yes.
And that's why I try and get people, you don't need to think about it as they put too much pressure on things trying to recapture their ad spend, you know, or get 3 times their ad spend in the first 30 days. It's inefficient and it's giving them, you know, missing out on the opportunity to get 10 or 15 times your ad spend over the next 12 to 24 months.
And there's my big answer. So I thank you.
Yeah.
That was a big one. That's been gnawing at me, you know, as I'm getting closer to, you know, being able to offer this book out there. And, you know, I put together this book in a fun, you know, so it's a fun read, but it's got some serious lessons in there. So it's not, you know, it's not just this will be an interesting,
fun thing, but how did you find out about the 90-minute book?
Actually, and this is fun, it was actually from a new client that I signed up that wanted me to help him create a funnel, but he also was a client of yours. His name is Joe Perez, and he is a real estate investor out in California. And I got to talking with him, and, you know, as he was telling me all about what he does, he does some really complicated stuff. I mean, high level stuff. And thankfully, you know, I did a lot of real estate investing myself, and I said to him, he was telling me about, you know, what he wanted his book to be about and so on and so forth. And I said, Joe, man, I said, your avatar is not a beginner, man. I said, you need to be talking to somebody who is already very seasoned and is looking to gain an edge on a competition in a very tight market and be able to generate some income in some really different ways than other people know about. So we got to talking about it, and then I communicated with Betsy a little bit, and I said, wow, that's interesting. So that's kind of how that happened. And I didn't call right away either. I mean, I didn't really think about writing a book myself at that point. It was just kind of hanging out there.
Right. And then I wonder, maybe one of those months we sent you an email that said, hey, would you like to get started with your book? That may be a catalyst.
I don't remember. I just remember that the conversation, I think it was the conversation I had on his behalf with Betsy, where I started asking questions, and I was impressed with the process. And I think that's what stuck with me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we covered a lot of ground here.
We did.
And what's your takeaway? What kind of landed, or what was your summary here?
Well, my big takeaway was obviously the answer to the question that had been lingering. I got some clarity around how I'm going to offer this thing, going through the numbers. Now that, you know, you kind of talked through the process of how you determine the numbers, now I'll actually go back and look at my numbers and narrow it down to make sure that, you know, the number in my head is specific. So I know exactly, you know, how much I'll generate per name on my email list, and then it makes my focus very easy. Build my list, you know.
Usually that's the point of it. That's what and I don't want it to be like something that you need to obsessively focus on. I'm pointing it out to people as a historical that if you look back at it, you know, the chances of it being a flop are slim and none. You know, that's really the thing. So it's about giving you that peace of mind that you've already connected the dots. You've got people who your message is resonating with them, and they're happy to have it. So
it's
very exciting.
It is exciting. I'm excited to share what kind of results that I get from it, you know, with you and with the rest of your team, because, you know, I didn't do this as just a quickie thing. I really wanted this to be I didn't want somebody to opt in and grab this thing and then read it and go, what's this, right? I wanted it to be really
Yeah.
solid.
No, you're just literally,
value.
now you've got the entry point, and we've laid out the whole playbook for you in Email Mastery, which you also have. So that'll be all of the email approach that we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's what your book is. Your book gets you to that point, and then it's all about the email. All your dreams come true in the inbox.
There it is. Yeah, I've been following your emails as they come out, and you walk your talk with every one of your emails, and you can just see why it's attractive. And really, when at a high level, nobody likes the cheesy approach. It's so professional.
Right.
The emails come across, and you're like, okay, that's the kind of person behind the scenes that's running a company that I want to do business with.
That's what you want. Is you want to work with a person. That's it. I get it, 100%. Well, that was great.
You're the master of it, and that's why I appreciate the opportunity today to chat with you. It was
I'm enjoying it. I'm glad we got connected, and I'll look forward. In Email Mastery, I do live calls, so we'll be able to wordsmith some of your emails on our live calls as well.
Outstanding.
Awesome.
Outstanding.
Thanks, Bill.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. Have an amazing day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Be well.